Welcome to the Divorce Dad Playbook podcast. Are you Punxsutawney Phil? What is happening with that? You look like a groundhog. Why do you look so terrible today, Scott?
Thank you for telling me that I look terrible.
Yeah.
I'm just having a rough morning.
All right. Well, maybe this will make you feel. Well, actually, this won't make you feel better. The song today might make you feel better. There's actually two. If you bear with me, the first one, I'll get to in a second. I'll tease that. The second one, if people do watch on YouTube, if you don't watch on YouTube and you listen to the show, just again, this is one of those stop right now and go watch, because the hat that you're wearing is just phenomenal. It's like amazing to me that you're even on a screen with this.
It's a warm hat, and it's the Sixers. They're like the number one team in the NBA right now.
They are. So, but if you see, I always now have some props around me, and I point to over my shoulder. This is a vinyl record that I got the other day, sealed, and it's really cool. It's from like an Amnesty International thing. Anyway, we'll get to that in a second, because that actually, the song itself pertains. But first, a little tribute. I don't know if this was necessarily your era, but it was certainly mine, and this is like a big deal for me. That leads into what I want to talk about.
When I wake up in the morning and the alarm gets out of water,
Screech.
Exactly.
You want to talk about Screech? Of course.
I don't want to necessarily talk about Screech.
Dustin Diamond.
Yeah, this is obviously Saved by the Bell theme song.
Yeah.
Okay,
Figure the one negative one I get right away.
The one negative what?
Song I get right away. The connotation to poor Dustin Diamond.
Look, Dustin Diamond passed away from lung cancer, and the kid had a tough life. And I'll tell you right now, my kid did acting classes. I can't tell you the number of people I can think of off the top of my head who were child actors who went on to have very just tough adulthoods. And that's why I never pushed our kid, who is an amazing actor, would be phenomenal in anything he was on. I didn't want to push it because it ruins people's lives. And Dustin Diamond had a very tough life and then got cancer. And so he passed away. That was like a thing for me. And I want to bring up in a second, I want to give you the floor in a second. I want to bring up why not just because like he died, but it actually pertains to a question that I've been thinking about over the little bit. But I mentioned this record. The last song, Scott, on this record that's behind my shoulder is one of the most famous songs of all time. So, but this is not the guy who you've normally heard sing it. It's the guy who wrote it. And John Williams, John Williams, the guy who like did all of the amazing orchestrations for like every movie we ever have seen. Listen to this.
With our children at our feet and the morals that they worship.
You know who that is singing, right? Pete Townshend.
Yeah. The Who.
He wrote this.
Townshend played with John Williams.
There you go. So now it was good that it was just a BBC thing, so I didn't have to play the whole thing. That is the song. Okay. I didn't know that. I thought it was the whole song. That is the song, We Won't Get Fooled Again. And
We Won't Get Fooled Again. Yeah.
There you go.
Gotcha.
And so both of those tie into what I want to talk about. And I'll just lay it out for people who are listening, and then I want to see why the hell you're wearing this hat. So feel free to take this in any other direction.
That was a heavy beginning for me to talk about why I'm wearing that.
No, I'm lightening it up. No, look, the guy died. Whatever. I didn't know him. We're not friends. The only thing is, the only claim to fame I have, the only Saved by the Bell connection I have, is I played in a charity celebrity poker tournament with Mr. Belding several years ago. That's it. That's my Saved by the Bell connection. I never met Dustin Diamond. But I feel bad because he was the character on that show, and I watched every episode of Saved by the Bell like 700 times. He was the episode on that. He was the character. On that show who was the comic relief. Everything he said was a punchline. Very rarely did he get any of the serious stuff. Even when he like was in love with Lisa Turtle, it was always like in a fun sort of way that you rooted for him. And so you think about that, he was never the main character. And then you look at Pete Townshend, and Pete Townshend is probably the most influential guitar player in the history of guitar. Guy like invented distortion. He's like more influential than anybody ever. But he didn't even sing his own songs. A couple of them, and then later on he had a couple of very big hits on his own. But he wrote songs for someone else. Roger Daltrey was the front man of The Who. When people look at The Who in their minds, a lot of people see Roger Daltrey, curly hair, no shirt or whatever, singing those songs. But Pete Townshend is the backbone of that. And it got me thinking, and this is the question I want to throw out to you and the question I want to pose to everyone. Are you the star of your own story? Are you the star of your own life? Like, was Pete Townshend the star of his own life? I mean, he's insanely rich and famous. He's an amazing person. Everyone knows who he is. But he wrote songs for Roger Daltrey to sing. Screech was like the funniest person on a show, but he's the 6th out of 6 that people would think of in terms of like who was the main character of that show. And it got me thinking, like, which of those do I identify with? And so that's where I wanted to go with this. And it pertains to dating stuff, and it pertains to all this stuff, because I've had a weird week with that. And it's making me think that like I'm not number one on anyone's list. And I'm wondering if I'm even number one on my own list. And so with that, I'll press pause, and hopefully that pertains to, you know, what's going on with you.
No, you should totally let me talk about the hat before you said that.
I think it pertains. Go ahead. We'll weave it together.
There's no way that pertains to that. That was way more serious than me wearing, for those of you that are on YouTube watching, that I'm wearing a winter cap that has the 76ers logo in dark.
Okay, you said before we started taping,
yeah,
do you
I'm
want me to tell you
morning.
on the show or not? And you said, I've had a bad day. And I thought, well, this might tie into that. Like the whole, like, you feel a little lost. You feel a little like,
no, it wasn't. So let me divert really quick, say why I'm having a tough morning. And then I'll try and somehow weave it back into what you're talking about, because mine will not be like that. So I apologize to the audience that I'm just going to vent for a second. So I have a hat on because I went outside to attempt to shovel. So here's the deal. This is it. Long story short, I hurt myself.
Oh,
I'm in a lot of pain. I really am. I'm in a severe amount of pain. I can't sleep at night because I hurt myself. That goes from like my neck into my back and like down to my leg. It's just not good. And so I haven't been sleeping very well. As everyone is aware, we got a massive snowstorm. Measured 27 inches at my home, which is a lot of snow.
Sure.
So as I said before, my kids aren't here. I got a guy. And the guy who didn't show up yesterday when everyone else is out there shoveling and blowing and whatever, he didn't show up. He texted me at like 7. It's already dark. And he was like, hey, it's a lot of snow. We're working through the night. I was like, okay. And I'm such a nice guy. I'm like, okay, no problem. My car's still buried. Nobody can get to my house. Be safe and thank you. That was my response to this guy. You're working through the night. I know it's been a long day for you, so I'm a nice guy. Be safe and thank you. Meanwhile, I have somebody supposed to come to the house today at 10. And I woke up in the middle of the night because I couldn't sleep because the pain in my back was really hurting. And I looked outside, they weren't here. They didn't come. So I texted the guy. It was now 5:30 in the morning. I texted him. I was like, hey, I have somebody coming at 10. Where are you? But no response. Then I ended up falling back asleep. The person who's going to come at 10 was texting me, am I still good to come? I'm like, no, now you can't come because you have nowhere to park. You can't get into my house. So then I texted the guy who was going to shovel again or blow, and no response still. And now it's like later, I got no response, which is very disrespectful, I think. And so I have this hat on because I got up with my hurt back and tried to go shovel a pathway so that the people who are going to be coming at 10 could get in. And I couldn't do it. It was like, now it's 2 days. It's a day later after the snow had fallen. There's a little layer of glaze on top of it. It's too hard. It's too heavy. My back hurts. And now I'm stuck. And I turned away 2 other guys who wanted to snow plow my walkway and my driveway yesterday because I was trying to be loyal to this guy who's a hardworking guy, wants to make a few bucks.
Totally ties into what I'm talking about. You don't realize it, but it's in my. Totally
I don't realize it because it's a minimal thing. But now I'm like fucked. So like now I'm sitting here, and I had to cancel the person at 10. My place is still snowed in. The kids are supposed to be here this afternoon, and there's nowhere for Jack to even park at this point. So I have to get out there and somehow remove some snow so that at least he could park. He and Luke will then help me if they haven't come at that point in time. But now it just throws off my entire day. So I'm in the middle of the week and I'm just kind of pissed. And I feel like, to your point, to tie it together, is that like in a very small way, because this is stupid. I understand this is a stupid little thing, but I realize it's taking a while for me to say this, but I do feel like I was trying to be nice to everybody. I was trying to be accommodating to everybody. And in turn, I get taken advantage of. And I think that's part of the theme of, I didn't put myself first. I wasn't Roger Daltrey in this situation. If I could tie it back to the
Go
Who,
ahead,
I
try.
wasn't,
Let's
I
go.
wasn't the leader of the band. I was Pete Townsend. And I was just like, let anyone else have their moment. Like, it snowed. The plow king, like Homer Simpson, should have come in and, earned some money. Oh, he didn't ask me how much I would pay. Like, I would have paid more just to have him come and do this, so I didn't have to have the anxiety of all this hanging out there. So, yes, unfortunately, I'm buried in my house. I'm wearing a ridiculous knit hat right now because I was outside and I ran in to do the show with you, and I made little to no progress on that. And the person who was supposed to come over today had to cancel and reschedule for Saturday, which sucks too. So there you have it.
That's all the time we have for the show today. That was a good topic. Look, I understand, and I don't know if you tied it in the way that I was going to tie it in, but I will bring it up this way. It sounds to me like you're frustrated because you had a deal with someone, and not that they reneged on the deal, but that you are not important enough to them to be put toward the front of that line, or even to a point in that line where
They just didn't
you didn't even want to be the front. You
they
just
just
wanted to be in line.
It's not even that. I think this ties in an okay way. Like, it's just with somebody that you be active with, that's actively doing something with you, to have no communication, like, that just doesn't work. Like, so even if I was in the middle or the end of the line, communicate to me that I'm at the end of the line and let me know when you're going to be there. And if you got tired overnight, I understand. It was a heavy snow. Get tired overnight, just text me. You were texting me last night and said you're working through the night. So why would I think when I woke up in the middle of the night that I wouldn't have been plowed out? Why have I not heard from this guy this morning yet? I understand he got tired. Dude, before you go to bed, if you have customers or you have a relationship that's like that, business or personal or whatever,
Yeah.
communicate. Just
Well,
communicate.
all right. All right. I'm going to try and weave this back, because I think that
At least Pete Townsend could communicate with his music.
yeah, I think you're trying to connect the dot on that one. And I got this.
I told you I wasn't gonna be able to really connect the dot on that.
No, but I can, because I know what I know what you're going through, and I'm trying to. You always say, let's spin this back to something that can relate to the people who are listening. And I'm not sure that everyone listening can relate to being dicked over by your plow guy, because probably most of the people there had to shovel. By the way, parenthetically, let me say that in the last episode of this show, I said I miss shoveling, and on the first day of the snowstorm, after the show was over, I got a text from my ex that said that Max wanted to see if wanted to play in the snow. And I had so much, you know how much work we have to do over the last couple of days, Scott, to get this stuff launched. And I was like, I can't, I have too much to do. And then I stopped and texted her or called her back in like 2 seconds. And I was like, you know what? Screw that. I'm not going to miss out on this opportunity, because all I did was just spend an hour talking about how I wanted to go hang out with the kids in the snow. And then I have that opportunity and I'm going to be like, no, I can't, because I have to edit a show where I talk about I don't want to hang out with the kids in the snow. This makes no sense. So I did go. Now, on the back end of that, I ended up not sleeping 2 nights ago, so I was up for 38 hours, but I felt like I needed to do that. And I got what we needed to get done accomplished. It took me longer than, I thought, but I got to shovel and I got to play with my kid, and I got to make a little slide. If people follow me on Instagram, you can see this amazing little ramp that we did with Max on Instagram Reels. And it's like one of those moments. Like, I gave him a huge hug after I left, and I was just like, it meant so much that he asked me to come hang out. He asked me again yesterday, and I just couldn't. By the time I would get there, it would have been dark. So I am actually, when we're done taping this, he has school today. When he's done school, I'm going to go over, take him sledding for a little bit, and then I'll come back and we'll get the rest of the work done. So this is the work-life balance that I've struggled over the last couple of years to figure out. And thankfully I was able to stop myself. So I did get to shovel, which sounds really weird, but I did. Now, to tie it back into your thing, I had offered several people in my area, just genuinely because I feel like being a nice guy to them, that I would help them if they're stuck, that I would help them. If I lived near you, I would have come over and helped you shovel. I don't mind it. And I offered a few people, one of whom I was trying to go out with the day we're taping this tonight. So I don't know if we are yet or not, because she was very non-committal. And it's frustrating to me because she's not doing anything. She's deciding whether or not, usually Wednesdays are her day for herself. She doesn't have her kids. And she's like, usually I just take Wednesday to like recharge on my own. And it's just not a great day for me to go out with other people because I never do. And I'm like, well, it's the only day that the two of us have that we both are kid free. So this is up to you. And now I'm sitting here on the day of waiting to hear if a woman who I've, for no reason, it doesn't matter, but it's like offered to go help just because I want to be a nice person to her, if she's going to decide between hanging out with me or no one. So now I'm competing with no one. Meanwhile, I have no. Meanwhile, I have like Scott, to your point, I have 3 people who want to hang out with me today, but I'm holding them off at arm's length.
But that's your choice, dude. Make the choice. Make the choice.
First of all,
because it's not no one. She wants to hang out by herself. I'm trying to. You spent 8 minutes talking about how your shovel guy didn't show up, and I'm trying to weave it back into what we're doing. It's the same dilemma that you had. You want to be loyal to the guy because you asked him to come first. He dicked you over, still hasn't gotten to you. So he's stringing you along. And then you had other opportunities to get other people involved and you didn't. It's the same exact thing, except mine actually pertains to what we're doing here. I don't know how to answer that. It's not the same thing.
You really are in a bad mood then, because you're just wrong. You're just wrong. It's the exact same thing.
I'm not wrong. Like I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying and how you're trying to weave that into my situation. I think in your situation, I understand your frustration that you're choosing her to be your number one choice. You have other people you can hang out with. She's not getting back to you. So at that point, just what I'm saying is just choose another person. By the way, if I don't hear back from this guy very shortly, I'm choosing another person.
Right, but you already had to reschedule with someone who you had plans with.
That's the annoying part.
It's the same thing. It's that I could go out with somebody else, and I'm not saying, look, those other people are cool, and I told them I have other plans. I'm waiting to see if they work out, and that goes to your point. Like, how honest are you with people? Yeah. Right. Do I say to this other person? Now, I did to one person who I'm friends with. I said, look, if I get stood up and you're available, let's hang out. They know that I'm waiting to hear back from someone else. Another person, I said, I have plans and I'm trying to figure out. I wasn't specific that it was theoretically plans, but I've tried to make this has been an outstanding request, so to speak. I don't want to say date because she never really committed at all, but like this was from last week. Like, hey, do you want to go out on Wednesday? And then this no hit. So it wasn't like I asked yesterday and she was like, well, I don't know. Let me know. This has been like a week for her to decide. So it's very similar, in my opinion, to your point where it's like you have somebody on the schedule. And this goes back to my large points. I want to hammer this home before you talk. This is the point I think it connects to you. Is that I have put that person, just like you put your person, higher on your list than you are on theirs. That guy clearly feels like other clients are more important to him. This woman clearly feels like other things going on in her life, and it might just be her own relaxation, and that's fine, are more important than me. Not just that she can't commit to going out with me, but that she can't even commit to telling me whether or not she's going to commit to me. And so like I'm not important. And I looked at it on a macro level. It's everyone in my life right now. I mean, except my kids, whatever, and you maybe, but like, I don't have anyone that I'm number one. To spin it all the way back to the beginning of this, I texted like 4 people when I found out that Screech had passed away, and every one of them wrote me back, yeah, I heard about that earlier. And I thought to myself, none of them thought to text me. As soon as I got it, I text those people. I thought, oh, here's somebody who might be interested in this. Let's talk about that. See how they feel about it. No, they already knew for hours, but no one thought to text me. And that's the choices I've made have led me to that. That's the different part than you. Like, I've made life choices where I am not anyone's number one.
Can I talk now, or
it's all you? Go ahead.
So I don't know that that's so exactly related to the snowplow guy that has let me down, but that was a really interesting way to tie that together. I will say, to keep it on that track, I will say, I understand what you're saying and I understand how you're feeling. And I think most people who are listening, whether you're divorced or not, because we have some people that listen and just enjoy our banter and are not even divorced. I think they may feel lonely and not anyone's number one, even if you're married. And to be honest, I didn't feel like I was anyone's number one when I was married. which probably was part of the reason why I ended up getting divorced. I do think I'm a shared number one for my kids, and I think that's important. And you mentioned that. So I think that is really important. I think that's part of this journey, Dan. You know, I think that's why we're doing what we're doing. I think that's why we're about to launch what we're about to launch, is to help people. And that's sort of what I think this is all about, is when I talk to people who I'm genuinely interested in, I say something when they're like, oh, you want a, you know, you want a physical, mental, emotional, spiritual connection. So do I. And I'm like, well, that's really hard to find. You know, that really is hard to find. I don't know if that's even possible. I said, but before I even get that deep, first and foremost, and I think this really relates to what you're saying, is I just want somebody who's got my back as much as I have theirs. And I think that that's actually really insightful in the sense of kind of what you're saying, that you don't feel like anyone else is prioritizing you like you might be prioritizing them, whether it's in dating or friends, whatever it may be. And what happens is there are a few people in life
I don't want to say
that,
friends, because if my friends are listening, who like I have regular text strings who I've known since kindergarten, like I don't want to put that on them. I don't necessarily think that they feel that
okay,
way.
so we'll pull that back. We'll pull that back
Yeah.
about
But it's the truth. I
like,
understand what you're saying. I definitely
no,
understand
no.
what
So,
you're saying.
and by the way, and I'm not knocking my friends either, but I do sense sometimes, and I've had conversations with my friends about this, that, and you say this all the time, like I'm the fixer. I this is what I do,
Right.
and now the fixer, like, because you're helping me through this too. I know people that listen talk to me about this all the time. That like you are the fixer. Like nothing's ever wrong for you, Scott. Like everything works out right. That's why we all come to you, because you can fix everything. And now I'm in this position where I've put myself in this position because I feel like I've opened up. I'm trying to change. And when I change and I try and allow other people to be a fixer, even in a small amount, like just shoveling my fucking driveway,
Your needs don't get met. Your needs don't get met. Not your needs don't
and
get met.
my needs don't get net. It's my needs are unnet. Yes.
Where did
So
what the?
I don't know how was that like a dyslexic moment. I don't know what happened there.
I mean, I don't know if that's yes, but wow.
That kind of is. So yes, your needs don't get met. So circling this back to like dating, I mean, the challenge really with dating, and this is what we talk about, that there are stages and steps you have to go through. And you're doing a good job of this first stage, which we're trying to really help people with that are struggling with it, which is
Yeah.
attracting people who you want to attract, right? Like that's really hard to do, actually. You're better at it, actually, in your world, what you're looking for, you're better at it than I am, because to your point, I'm attracting a lot of people in some respects that are needy, that want a fixer in their lives, because
Yeah.
that's how I present myself. So what you've done is you've done really well on step one of attracting the people that you want to attract. Where you're failing, and this is kind of step two, which we'll get to with a lot of people over time, which is how do you then, once you have attracted enough people, how do you prioritize them the right way, who's going to be the best match for you? Because the reality is, and I don't know any of these people you're talking about, but this woman you've been waiting for a week, from what I hear from you, is she's just not that into, not you, because she obviously is connected with you, matched, whatever it is,
Right.
whatever
Whatever.
site
Yeah.
name.
Yeah. We
Probably
text a
men.
lot. I mean, it's not like she's not communicative.
Right.
We
You text
text
a lot.
all the time.
Right. But so maybe that's just where she is. So I think sometimes what people like us, and if you're looking to be prioritized, I think you're very open and honest and candid. I think sometimes we get into this mode where we're hoping somebody is going to prioritize us as much as we would prioritize them, and they're not in our head, they're not in our world. And I think that's part of the problem, that there are people that would prioritize you, you're just not prioritizing them, and that's the irony of it.
Right. And no, it's not the irony of it. It's probably making a couple people, and I can probably name them out loud, but I won't, screaming at their radio right now or at their listening device, because I guarantee that there are people listening to this being like, you are such a fucking hypocrite, because I have not prioritized them. If I'm A1 on their call sheet or whatever, they're the person who I'm like, well, let me see if my plans pan out. And if not, I'll hang out. I know I'm doing that, and I know I'm a hypocrite for it. What part of the justification that I have, and I don't know if this is fair or not, but this is the way I'll explain it. The other day I said I was hyper communicative, right? And I believe that. I am constantly texting people. If you saw the number of texts and exchanges while I'm doing work, people are like, how do you do that? That's all my brain knows. Like, I just don't, there's no, my pedal is just like, it's an on off switch. It's just either full speed or no speed at all. And so when I'm texting people or whatever, sometimes I'll take a break. I was doing work yesterday. I didn't text anybody back for a really long time, but then I'm like, oh, I have to catch up. And all of a sudden I sent like 35 texts in like 8 minutes. And so I caught up. What I mean, Scott, is not necessarily like the order. I said this on New Year's, like, you know how close you are with someone by how close to midnight you text them. Like the person you text at 12:01 and the person you text at 12:08, there's a difference between that relationship. The 12:01 is somebody you want close to you. The 12:08 is like, all right, I got to like 6 other people and now it's up to you. And then like 12:45 or like the next morning, you're like, you don't matter to me that much, but I just want to remind you I'm in your life. And I am sure that I am not prioritizing the people at the same level who are prioritizing me. I know that. And I kind of feel a little shitty about it. I have logic in my brain as to why I'm doing that. The woman that I'm talking about now, without getting into too many specifics, lives a few miles from me. She seems awesome. We seem to get along, and she lives fucking close. Those are very important things when you're trying to match with somebody, especially in a snowstorm, when the other person who I was trying to hang out with on Monday, another version is still non-committal because she might not be able to get a sitter or doesn't want to try to get a sitter to hang out on the weekend. So now I might have to go another 3 weeks without hanging out with that woman because of a snowstorm and because she can't get somebody to watch her kid. That's obviously, kids are more important than me, right? Kids first. But to me, it's frustrating because now I can't plan Saturday because I asked her to go out Saturday and she's like, let me let you know what closer to the weekend. And so now what do I do? And so that's on me. That's my bad. But like, this is now with everything. I'm up in the air because I'm choosing, to your point, and I admit this, I'm choosing to prioritize people who aren't prioritizing me. That doesn't mean that there aren't people who want me to prioritize them first. I need to figure that out. And I haven't yet.
That's actually a great thing. By the way, there was a whole How I Met Your Mother episode on this exact topic, just to make that reference back to one of my favorite shows.
You do understand that, I mean, like, that pretty much has been my life for the last, except for the fact that like I already have kids. I'm living that life right now.
No, I understand. Every time I watch How I Met Your Mother,
I walk to a bar, hilarity happens, and then I
laugh. I'm laughing about it. But Dan, I think the reason why a show like that, for those of you that haven't watched, it's now on Prime, so you can watch it. It's great. It's on Prime. It used to be on Hulu, and it's 21 minutes an episode. Like, it's an easy watch. It's hilarious, and if you haven't watched it, watch it. The reason why it is such a good show is because so many people can relate to it. They've created a bunch of characters that are highly relatable at different stages in life, ironically. And again, you are very Barney Stinson-esque in this, but they had a whole episode where everyone on the show, and they didn't realize it, had somebody on the hook, is what they called it. Somebody on the hook. It wasn't like their priority. And then even the people that they had on the hook, they had people on the hook. So it's like this whole down the line kind of thing. But I think you do bring up a good point that I would imagine. Think about it. People that are listening, think about this, because you probably do this whether you have a partner right now, whether you're doing it with your children, whether you're actively dating. This has to resonate. It resonates with me, and I'm way beyond where you are, that I'm trying to figure out my prioritization. And it's not even just about dating. I'm trying to figure out my prioritization because, and this is just a friend that I was talking to, was sort of like jokingly texting with me last night and saying, I was mad. So I went like on a little shopping spree. I was like, oh, what were we mad about? She was like, well, you never responded. And I was like, well,
oh wow, mad at you,
mad at me, which again, like old friend. Like, so I went back for that. I was like kind of like laughing when I saw that. I was like, I didn't respond. I work. Like, I have like I was working today. I was doing nothing but sitting right here. Actually, probably half the day I had this hat on, and I was sitting right here working all day and didn't think about that. So, but in her mind, right? And I actually, because we go way back, we were able to talk it through, and I was like, no, don't do that. Like I wasn't ignoring you. I wasn't. I was just busy. I was doing something else. So,
I
but
got one.
again,
I'll tell you in a second.
even with dating, with work, whatever it may be, we choose how and who to prioritize, and oftentimes we're wrong. We really
It's not
are.
that.
No,
Okay.
I do. I think I know you're going to say like you can't. There's no right or wrong in this. There
No, no,
is.
no, no. That's not what I'm going to say at all. Actually,
Okay.
it's not that
But
there's no right or wrong.
I think oftentimes, okay, let me speak for myself then. I
Go
think
ahead.
oftentimes I choose wrong. And I don't do it on purpose. And I really do try my best every day to do the right thing, the best thing. And I think I really do think, not everyone would agree, but I really do think I'm an overworked and overwhelmed sometimes, but I'm a genuinely really good guy. And unfortunately, good guys get taken advantage of. And I think I think you're putting yourself in that position in some respects, even though you're being open and honest and communicative. I think you're a good guy. You mean well. You might be after different things, and I think sometimes people won't prioritize someone like you. I think sometimes people want the chase a little bit more than the
Well,
person who's
that's where
working
I was
out with them.
going.
Yeah.
That's where I was going with that. And to your point, Scott, I don't think it's wrong. I think that human nature is you take for granted, and I think I did this for 17 years, which is why we're having this conversation now and not a different conversation about, what we're doing for Valentine's Day with my wife. Um, I I think that you take for granted the people who will be there. And then when it turns out they're not there, you're like, wait a minute, you were my backup plan. Like if you talk about Jack's trying to look at colleges, like let's just say, for example, that he knows that the safety school he can always get in. Well, what if he takes so long to decide, or he's waiting for one of the schools he wants to go to, and they take so long to decide, and then they decide they don't let him in. Now he goes back to a safety school and they're like, sorry, we're full. We don't have room for you anymore. You took too long. And you're like, wait a minute, but that was my safety. That's how I feel. I think that's how everyone feels. I'm not different.
Yeah.
That you take for granted the person who is going to be there for you. You take for granted the person who you're like, well, you know what? Even though maybe she's great and she's awesome and we're great friends, we get along, there's an attraction, blah, blah, blah. I know that she's going to be. Let me try and swing for the fences because I know I can hit a single off this pitcher.
I agree. That's what I'm saying. Like, and
What? But what? But what about if? What about
that's
if they're looking at it and they're like, what if I'm their swing for the fences? And now I'm stringing them along. Like, you need to find somebody where you're both the singles hitter. Like we're both like, let's just get on base. But if I'm her home run and she's my base on balls or whatever, then that's a disconnect. And that's where you start to feel bad because someone else has prioritized you and you're leaving them, as you said, on the hook because you want somebody. And that's where I am all over the place. I feel like I don't have anybody in a pecking order list. I respond to people as they respond to me. But there are people who I will text instantly. And then there are people who I will text, later in the day. I was just showing you the woman who would convert for the Jews, right? She texted me yesterday and she said, did you get my text yesterday or should we quit texting? And I'm like, I texted you back. I don't understand. She said, well, it's up to you. I had to text to check on you. And I'm like, you had to check on me? And she's like, yeah. I was like, this isn't working out. You did not have to check on me. Like, what the hell is that?
But by the way, that's what's so interesting about this is that that's how delicate dating can be, right? Like people
Not
are
once did
all
she come
in their
at me with
own.
anything other than hi
I
and good night. Like,
understand.
that's
I
not checking
understand,
on.
Dan.
Come at
I
me with something.
understand. But people build up scenarios
Right.
through the gamification of these apps, and everyone does it to differing degrees. Everyone does it. You can't tell me, anyone who's listening who's on a dating app, you can't tell me right now that whether you have 3 matches in a line or 30 matches in a line waiting to talk to, you can't tell me, pecking order or not, you don't prioritize some of them based off of your own thoughts. Like, I
Sure.
think she would be the best match for me. I think he would be the best match for me. You look at it like that without a doubt. Everyone does it. And that's very much so part of the gamification. And sometimes you put people into your game who aren't even really there or aren't even really available or are stringing you along or whatever it may be. So I think, and you've taught me this as we've gone through it. And I hope that other people are listening and learning from their actions. And again, we're here to help with all this, because I think finding the right people and putting your messaging out there to get the right people will help eliminate some of this, right? So even
Yeah.
you and I
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
continue
For sure.
to fine tune this. That you need, if you're out there, like, they're not all going to be home runs, like, and we get that, like if we're using that baseball analogy, they're not all going to be home runs. But if you can find somebody that you're hitting doubles together, like, that's pretty awesome. And I think the way that you need to be looking at it, and I say you meaning everyone, is you need to really look into this. And it was very interesting. I talked to this woman, and I always, I ask different questions, and I'm like, okay, you've been divorced, whatever, 5 years, 6 years. Have you had any long-term relationships? And this one woman said, yes. And again, you and I have talked about this, and I don't know how this works. Said, yes, I actually started dating a guy shortly after I was separated and dated him for 5 years. And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah. And she was like, and I'm still friends with him today. We're not together anymore because I don't remember what she said exactly, but the it was great physically. It was somebody to have around every once in a while.
Yeah.
But mentally, like, we didn't have anything to talk about. I think that's what she said. I carried the conversation.
Okay.
And then when talking to me, so in comparison, she's like, I don't feel like I'll ever have to do that with you. I was like, well, but I don't want to be carrying the conversation either. So this is a good conversation to have, because
Right. Sure.
maybe you're going swinging the pendulum too far to one side, and I do it too. Maybe if you find somebody on many levels where you can meet in the middle, that's the deal. But getting back to your point, I think that it's all about fine tuning this initial part of dating, what you're going through in terms of the prioritization and where you are in your head.
Yeah.
Is about fine tuning the profile that you have to attract the right types of people, to make sure that they're more aligned with you. You'll inevitably still kind of prioritize them in some respects, but try and find yourself a group of people who all understand who you are. And the group might be smaller. And I think that's the problem people have with this, is that everyone wants to be like, oh, this site's great, I have 50 people that want to match with me.
Yeah. Well, that's not good.
That's not good.
No.
That's actually quite
You've done a
overwhelming.
bad job if you have 50. Yeah, exactly.
Correct. And so I think that's the thing. So I'll pause for a second, because I'm sure you have stuff to say about it. But
No, it's fine. Somebody sent me someone who I actually hung out with sent me a text yesterday, because we have a large group of people helping us with all of this, and so because I can't see all the men's profiles when we're designing things, I need help with that, and so I have a lot of female friends and sending me profiles, and somebody yesterday sent me a picture of a guy who says, I have a foot fetish. If this is something you're into, message me. And all of the pictures on this guy's profile are him with like his face covered in other people's feet. And she sent me that, and she's like, is this a good profile or not? I was like, it's an amazing profile. Are you kidding me? One, the fact that the guy would put it out there knowing he's probably getting ridiculed. And two, the fact that he's very clear about what he wants. He's very clear. You're going to be sticking your feet in my face. And if that's not cool for you, then swipe right or swipe left. Excuse me. If you have any interest in this, this is what I like. And that is, he's probably getting way fewer matches than anyone listening, but he's getting more pointed, more direct, and probably, getting more fulfillment out of those matches, because the people are going in knowing what they want. Just real quick on the baseball analogy, and I almost switched it to basketball, but let's just stay on the one sport. For Phillies fans out there, Ryan Howard, is one of the greatest home run hitters in Phillies history, but infuriating to fans because he would strike out all the time. And you're like, dude, basically baseball created the shift for Ryan Howard, for guys like that. All he had to do was just be patient and tap the ball down the third base line, and he could have gotten on base every single time he was at the plate. But that wasn't what he wanted to do. That wasn't in his mind, his role on the team. He was supposed to hit the ball over the fence, and he was willing to strike out to try to hit the ball over the fence. And that's where I feel like I am in some of these situations, Scott, where I know I could hit a single. I don't want to settle for a single. I feel like right now, at my point in life, I'm swinging for the fences because I don't care. And so I have that opportunity. It's not like we need to get me on base. It's like that's enough already. Like, you need to get on base. No, I can swing for the fences. I have the luxury right now of trying to find the person who could be that, like, every box checked off, 10 out of 10. So that's what I'm doing. Now, the problem for me is like when this happens and then like, is it fair or foul? And it's like, all right, guys, can you not spend like 35 minutes telling me if it's fair or foul? Just tell me if I hit a home run or not. That's where I feel like I am sometimes, because I'd rather strike out than like stand at home plate and be like, oh, is it a home run or not? Can you guys, can you let me know by 8 so I can try and make another swing? Like, that's where I feel like I am. I'm trying to swing for the fences. I don't want to settle for a single right now. I think when I'm at your point, 7 years from now, if I'm still doing this, I might be more willing to just smack a ball down the third base line and get on base.
So I think we've dove too deep into this baseball analogy. So hopefully, but most people know baseball. So that's also the reason why when you're not always swinging for the fences, but you're just trying to get a hit, every once in a while, a rare occurrence happens. A very rare occurrence happens, which is an inside the park home run. Right. And I think, to be honest, to keep with your analogy, that it's not necessarily like, by the way, Ryan Howard ultimately got booed out of Philly and took a contract with the Cardinals, I think, for like shit money because he just couldn't stop playing baseball. He was addicted to it, but he was a terrible player in the end of it all because all he did was try and swing for the fences. Yet Hall of Famers are out there just adapt and grow with the game and grow with their game. And I think that's where you see the difference between you and me is that I'm actually happy.
I'm going to swing myself right out of the league.
You might be swinging yourself right out of the league.
And you're Barry fucking Bonds.
I'm not saying I'm Barry Bonds because Barry Bonds is not in the Hall of Fame. So I say,
I mean, you just sports talk radioed me. Don't do that to me, man.
No. I understand. So I'm trying to stay away from
me.
that part. That's why I said we're going too far deep.
Can't tell you how many times I've been on television talking about that in my lifetime. My God.
But I feel as though the way I approach things is I'm looking, like, again, to your analogy, Ryan Howard, either he did one or two things. He either hit a home run or struck out, usually. Maybe hit into the shift every once in a while. Whatever. He either hit a home run or struck out. And he struck out way more than he hit home runs.
Of course.
Way more. It's just the baseball thing. But that's not so far away from life. And
it's exactly like dating profiles. Are you kidding me?
It's exactly like dating profiles.
If you hit 40 home runs on a dating profile and you strike out 200 times, that's an amazing ratio. Are you kidding me? It's just like baseball.
So right, but baseball is not all just about hitting. It's about defense too. It's about fielding. It's a whole game. So what I've done is, keeping with the analogy, I've honed my skill set so that I'm great in the field. And when I come up to bat, I want to get on base because I know once I get on base, good things can happen. And that's what it's like in my mind. Like, I don't need to hit a home run. I need to keep the game going because I feel like good things can happen if I'm still playing, if I'm still in the game. So therefore, if I'm connecting with the right people because I know my position and I'm connecting with the right people and I'm getting on base, that's where I can grow a relationship. That's where I can take it to I mean, now this is becoming like high schoolish. Like, I can take it to second base, maybe I get to third base, maybe I can hit a home run. But the reality is right, second base. But the reality is that's how I view it versus how you. So I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying it's a different philosophy. And I think a lot of people out there will be able to relate to the fact that they have some sort of position in all this. And again, I no longer, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to get home. You know, it doesn't mean that like you're trying to get home in one swing because you're trying to go for what you think is the prettiest girl with the best profile. And that's
not always about the prettiest girl. I mean, yeah.
But to you, it is. Like, to you, it is. It might not be the prettiest girl to everyone, but to you, there's something that's attracting you. That's how dating profiles work. You're going to get attracted to a picture that's then going to lead you to
I'm not going to debate that. But yeah, I mean, yes, to your point.
In theory, and to me, I look at it more like holistically, and I really look at the picture and what they're writing, and I really kind of dig into it. And that's why when you say to me like, "Well, you interview people," hell yeah, I interview people. Like, because there are some important things that, if they're not going to connect, and they're not going to work out at the beginning, then I know how to prioritize people at that point. Then I can kind of just move on. Now, I don't say that I am as communicative as I would like to be. I do get busy, and I wish I were better at communicating with people who are wonderful people that I don't necessarily ultimately connect with. I don't know. I haven't figured that part out yet. And maybe that's something that I need to learn from others. Or maybe I don't need to do anything. Like maybe that's just part of the dating game, is that you go out on a date, and if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. And then you just move on to the next person, because you can't take care of everyone. That's like the fixer in me that wants to make sure everyone's okay with it. Like, well, it's not going to work out because of this, and you can do that, whatever it is. But I do think that if this is a game, which we do call it a game, and we can relate it to something like baseball, that there are many different approaches to it. And I think that you might just need to change your perception of what you're actually in the game for.
Well, two things I'll say. One, different than the guy with the foot fetish, for all the ladies out there, I definitely slide into third base head first. And secondly,
Jesus.
come on, I was waiting for like 4 minutes to say that.
We just got an explicit rating.
Oh my God, we already had that. The other part of this is, and just to finish up this analogy on baseball, because I think it pertains, but let's move on to back to the TV stuff for a second. Oh my God, put the hat back on. Put the hat back on.
I'm going to.
Oh my God, this is amazing. I'm screen capturing the shit out of this.
It's just
take your time. Oh God. Oh
no, keep talking. There's people that are listening and not watching me scratch my head because it was itchy.
I wonder, Scott, if I am Ryan Howard, or if I am, I'm trying to think of another guy who everyone would know, but like Bobby Abreu comes to mind for me, because Bobby Abreu was infuriating to people because he won a home run derby. He could have basically led the league in home runs, but what he cared about was getting on base. His on base percentage was insane. He would walk all the time when everyone's like, just hit the damn ball out of the park. We need a run. He's like, no, I'm getting on base. That's my job.
Not me. I you know what? I cheered for him every single time he got on base. So that's the difference.
Analytically speaking, so did I. But the point I'm making is I'm trying to figure out now, 1 year into this, 1 year into my career, Ryan Howard won Rookie of the Year and then won an MVP. And then 7 years later, after he made $1 billion, couldn't even keep himself in the league and got a minor league deal until he eventually, now he's like an investor in Philly. But so he's landed on his feet, by the way, just in case you were wondering.
I'm not worried about Ryan Howard. I'm just saying that Ryan Howard might not be feeling so great about his career as he looks back, because he's not a Hall of Famer.
Right, exactly. And that's my point on this is I am still at a point in my career where I can, where I need to figure out, am I choosing not to be a singles hitter, or am I incapable? And do I need to develop that skill?
Right.
To continue in this game and be productive, or am I going to get myself burned out like a lot of people I talk to? And that's where, let's get off the baseball. That's where people have to adapt. That's where your profile at 30 and your profile at 35 and your profile at 45 cannot be the same. If your profile looks similar or the same, just updated photos, but if it looks the same, the woman who sent me the direct message on Instagram, who's like, I need you to help me with my profile. And I'm like, shut up, lady. I've been trying to date you for months. And she's like, yeah, all right, cool. She actually wrote me back and she's like, I could probably give you some advice. I'm like, oh crap. I do not want to hear that advice. Back off is probably what the advice is going to be. Like, enough already. I'm not interested. But I looked at her profile and I read her profile and I looked at her photos and I thought to myself, I know what's wrong with her. I know what's wrong with her profile. No one is actually reading it. They're looking at the photos and saying, yes. And that's it. And so she's not getting enough of the people who are looking at her for a well-rounded person because she's fucking hot. This is what Nicole said when she was on our show a couple episodes ago. Nicole's 46 years old, matched with a 26-year-old guy. Why? Because he thought she was hot. She needs to develop a more cohesive profile. She needs to have pictures in there that tie into her interests, not just, hey, look at me, I'm in a bathing suit. Okay, that's good. That's going to get you a certain type of person. And if you don't want that at 42 or 43 or 39 when you have 2 kids, then don't have the same profile as when you were 30 and single.
Right.
And that's where we're helping people. But that's where I think I can help this woman. It's like, your profile's amazing. Your photos look awesome. But I know why you're not getting the guy you want. Because you're getting guys who are trying to swing for the fence. You're their home run when you actually want a guy who just wants to get on base and see where it goes.
Yeah. Well, I think that to kind of wrap this thing up,
Yeah.
I think we're talking about this a lot because for a few reasons. I think we're both going through it in our own way, right? In our own
Yeah.
way through dating, through life, like whatever. Obviously, again, I think that I'm still pissed now that like this guy we've been talking for a while and he has not gotten back to me. I'm infuriated, but regardless, I think that we're talking about this because
Now
we're
I
both
gotta
going
check my
through it,
texts.
and I also am thinking about it uh, because of this thing that we're about to launch. So this thing that we're about to launch is gonna address a lot of the stuff that we're talking about. People have been talking to us about. People have been asking us. People, this is not. There are no accidents, right? What we're doing is a direct result of people coming to us and saying, we want help, we want very specific help at this point.
Right.
Can you help us here? And that's what we're going to be doing as sort of this stage or step one of helping people out with their profiles to make sure that, to your point with this woman, she's the home run for so many guys when she just wants somebody who's looking to get on base. And we want to help people. It's not about getting you onto apps and getting you hundreds of matches. It's about getting you onto apps and getting you a handful of matches that are the right matches for you.
And to your point, like this woman who I'm waiting to hear back from, and now this other woman who, you know, may or may not be able to hang out with me on Saturday, and I feel like I'm getting strung along a little bit. I'm now bogging them down. Like if they don't really want to hang out with me, but they want to be polite and they're like, well, he's nice. Let me just see where it goes. Maybe I'll hang out with him if I can. I'm now keeping them from having a conversation with someone else. So on their end, like it benefits them to either just cut me loose or say yes. And
Yeah.
so I know I'm doing this to other people, and I maybe need to do a better job of being like, look, this is going to work out. I tried that 2 weeks ago because I thought I met somebody who I was like, I'm going to hang out with this woman for a while. And that lasted about 8 minutes. So, I mean, sometimes you make a mistake and sometimes you're wrong, but anyway, and just to punctuate this, and we're not going to talk about this in length, but so the topic I wanted to talk about, which is why we brought up, you know, Screech and Pete Townsend and stuff, how they connect in my brain is amazing to me. But like, are you the star of your own show? You brought up How I Met Your Mother, and the star of that show, the traffic driver of that show is Ted Mosby, who's the worst character, right? He's the one that no one, because he's not that funny. He's, you know, not the lighthearted comic relief. And that's where it's like, are you the main character or are you the comic relief? Are you the, and maybe I'm wrong, Scott. Maybe you're every character and it depends on who you're playing that scene against.
I think
Maybe
that's
I'm not.
right. I
Yeah.
actually like. I just wanted to stop you there because I think actually you might have just we might have figured this out like as we're talking it through, which is a good thing. Is that, you know, I think we all play different roles in life, and I think that is true to dating too. I think that if you're dating with children, whether you have kids or they have kids or everyone has kids, you have a different thought process, you have a different role, you have different kind of responsibility, etc. I think that might be the case when you think about it. So anybody, people who haven't seen How I Met Your Mother, you should watch it, like I said. But think about any show where sometimes you know, that's why they have Oscars and Emmys and whatever it is for supporting actor and actress and all these different things, because in the reality, sometimes the supporting cast are the ones that make the show interesting.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we are the supporting cast of our own show. Like we don't always have to be the lead. Back to the point of what you're saying, like Pete Townsend, I think he probably led a pretty damn good life, except that he went deaf. I think he led a pretty good life. And I think he was plenty happy and he got plenty of women and did whatever drinking or drugs they did, and they made great music. And I don't think that I don't know him. So, you know, if he were to interact with us, is he still alive?
He did an album like last
Okay.
year, and apparently like it's
I'm,
amazing.
I'm checking because I said Michael
You
McDonald.
think everyone's dead?
And then Pam was pissed that I said Michael McDonald was dead.
Oh, I didn't see that.
You didn't see that comment? Yeah.
No.
She made the comment on YouTube, which is hilarious. Thank you, Pam. We always appreciate your comments. So
By the way, I can't stop singing that song now. Like I texted you a picture of the record playing.
Yeah,
I just keep walking around going, you don't know me, but I'm your bro. Yeah, all day. That's all I keep singing now. I don't even know the next line.
It's still not good.
By the way, it sounds exactly like him. Trust me, I've actually listened back. I sound exactly like him.
No, not at all. I would say Michael McDonald, since you are alive, if anyone knows Michael,
oh my God, get him on the show. We'll do a duet.
Let's get him on the show, and I guarantee he'll sing and you'll sing, and it'll be awesomely humiliating for you.
I'm not.
But regardless,
I'm trying to do a parody of a guy's voice. It's not humiliating. I'm trying to sound like if I were doing Kermit the Frog and I were singing, I wouldn't be like, it's not that easy. Like, I'm not going to do it now because, like, you know, whatever. But I'm saying, like, I'm trying to sing like Kermit. I'm not going to sing like myself. If you said sing, you know, it's not that easy being green. I'd be like, it's not that easy.
Let me land the plane on this whole thing, which is I think it's okay to be not the main character and still be happy. And I think that you don't need to be number one. I think people who are maybe number two or number three can feel like they're number one. And I think that's the same thing. Like you say all the time, like the greatest character on How I Met Your Mother was Barney Stinson. He wasn't the main character. Sometimes he was the main character, but the main character was Ted. The show was called How I, Ted Mosby, Met Your Mother. He was the main character, but all the other ones were hilarious and also went on to great things and, you know, and lived full lives on the show and off the show. So I think part of the point, and I think we've kind of come full circle on this, is that you are feeling like you aren't the focal point or the top or whatever it might be. And I think maybe the reality is you just need to recognize that it's okay not to be.
But Scott, do you understand that my brain isn't composed that way? It's impossible for me to not think that. And that's what's hard. That's where I feel like I'm getting like, yeah, Barney Stinson was the reason that show was on for 12 seasons. Pete Townsend is the reason The Who was one of the top 5 rock and roll bands of all time. Like, there's no doubt. It wasn't Roger Daltrey. All he did was sing other people's words. It's Pete Townsend. So I need to convince myself, and I try this in life, I need to convince myself that that is the alpha, the guy who drives the reason people show up. But like for somebody who has the disorders that I have, to not be number one on so many people's lists is like what the fuck?
But I understand that we're not going to process this in one show for you, but I think that just like a band, just like a team, you know, a sports team, or just like a show, like you are a part of an ensemble in life, right? You have your friends, you have your kids, you have an ex, and you're dating. And so I think you are the number one in so many aspects of your life. And sometimes you forget it because you want to be number one in one area. And it just doesn't work that way. And I think that that's what you really need to come to terms with. And I understand your brain doesn't compute it this way, but when you're with yesterday, as an example, you were out sledding with Max, shoveling, building the hill, whatever it was, 2 days ago, whatever. You don't think you were his number one?
No, a kid. I take the kids out of it completely.
I understand. I'm not making about the kids. I'm just saying our lives are full. So it's not like it's not like we're single people out there that are just looking to date and eventually meet our match that we're going to build a family with, whatever. We have a family, and we have relative careers, and we have we have a full set of friends. Like when you leave, I look at Jack now, and like Jack has such great friends in high school. And I know that times are different than when we were in high school, that social media and all the technology is going to allow them to stay together better than we could stay together with our friends.
All my best friends I still went to high school with, honestly.
Right. So I'm not the same, because I left the state. I went to school somewhere else, and I lived in different areas. I don't live there. Right. So I don't get to see those people anymore. I'm friends with them on Facebook, whatever. But I do think that as I look at Jack, I say to him, I'm like, you know, you're going to go on to have a whole new group of friends as you go to whatever college you choose. And that's great. That's like evolution. I think that we're way further evolved than that, even though we're dipping our toes into a new area such as dating. And you're dipping your toe into a new area that's dating. I'm not. Yeah. I mean,
I think, and just my last point is that I think what has hit me this week is when you're in a slump, and I'm not in a slump, but when you're in a slump in sports, when you're swinging and swinging and swinging for home runs, you try to press a little bit. and you try to swing at pitches that you think are home run balls and they're not. And you make bad decisions, and you need to be patient. We talked about this on the last episode. You just need to be patient. Wait for the right pitch, because you can hit a home run every time. But if you swing at the bad pitch, you're going to strike out. And that's where I think I need to remember that. I need to stop pressing and pushing these people to make these decisions and just be okay with like, all right, you can't hang out this week, maybe next week. And I'm not like that. To me, it's like, you want to hang out tonight? No. Okay. I'll never talk to you again. And because
right. And you're
so
like a lot of people though. I mean,
I need to hit a home run every time at bat. If I don't hit a home run every time at bat, I don't care if I make the Hall of Fame because I have 80 home runs a year and break all these records. To me, I was at bat 300 times that season, which means 220 times I didn't hit a home run. I'm still at that point. I strive for perfection, and I know it doesn't exist. I feel like if you don't strive for perfection in everything you do in life, then you're half-assing it. And I know it breaks my brain. It broke my brain for 3 years. I'm trying not to let it break my brain now, which is why I'm doing this with you right now and not.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Right. I agree. So I think hopefully this was very relatable. I know it is to you and me. And if it is to you and me, usually it is relatable to a lot of other people. And hopefully as we come up to this dreaded holiday with the dancing hearts and everything coming around, right? Because there's no more holidays, because you said Groundhog Day, which clearly he did not see his shadow because it was like a foot of snow or whatever.
I didn't even watch this year. I usually watch.
Well, it didn't matter. Like it was a non-event because it was snowing and cloudy. Valentine's Day is coming, and you know, for us, we feel the same way. Like it's a time for us to take inventory. I mean, your birthday's coming up too, obviously, but it's a time for us to take inventory on where we are in our lives and where we want to go. And I think that's a good time for you to stop trying to think about hitting a home run every time. There is no such thing as perfection. I think there's a lot of singles and doubles out there that could turn into home runs, and you need to welcome the process. You know, you need to learn how to steal a few bases.
I got nothing else. Keep going. Got to land the plane, as you say.
I feel like I was landing the plane. So again, I think that this certainly stretches from all aspects of our life, from business, dating, and the kids. And so with any aspect of it, I will say one thing where I do absolutely, and I will continue to not be number one and make these two little guys that I have number one is with kids, because everyone knows how I feel about that. So it's an interesting show, Daniel. Interesting show. Kids first.